Hi, welcome back. We're on the very last 3 boxes. We're almost done. It is a different night because we were up till really late. We were here till about 1:30 and then went home. And that's after a 12-hour long day of the store being open, so I was exhausted. But here we are, the next day. Yeehaw. Excellent. Now, for those of you who've looked at the herbology section, you've noted probably that I have a bunch of books on mushrooming. And although a lot of them are really great information, not much of them have English help for Ryan. No, not much of them have real help for people who are going out into the field and actually mushrooming. As such, mushrooming with confidence. Don't just walk pussyfooty through the woods. No. Go boldly forth, grab mushrooms, and try not to kill yourself. And always remember, children, that all mushrooms are edible. Some only once. Now, jumping over to Satru and Heathenry, we have some rune lore, the magic history and hidden codes of the runes. La la la. Now, I had a bunch of feng shui books, and some people may think this one's kind of really flaky, because how the heck does feng shui and home decoration relate to that? But if you understand feng shui, you know that your home or your living space is divided into a bunch of sections, and all of those kind of influence different areas of your life. One area of everybody's life that is going to happen is romance, sex, and relationships. This is classical feng shui for just that. The idea being that no, don't just dress up and put perfume on. Rearrange your furniture. It'll help bring a man into your life. No. Moreover, it'll help just bring the energies into your life. A thing to remember too is that it's not just romance and sex and relationships. Love is also brought into that. And one thing I'd like to remind people of is that love also includes self-love. Anyway, very pretty book. And this goes with, I keep on looking over there because I have the other 2 books over there. So this will join me. We have the whole series. Written by Master Denise Leota Dennis. If you're wondering what the heck she's a master of, she's a master of feng shui. Ooh, now this is one that I haven't purchased for myself, but I've been interested in for some time. It's written again by Raven Grimassi. There we are. Now I'm speaking with a proper tongue. It's called The Cauldron of Memory, but it's all about retrieving ancestral knowledge and wisdom. If I do recall one of the reviews, it's also about doing a little bit of a jump into past life regression. Let me just double check that before I go saying that. Oh, I already said it. Actually, for those of you, it addresses morphogenesis, and for those of you who don't know what morphogenesis is, or what a morphogenic field is theorized to be, how is it explained easily and simply in a snippet? Spiders of different species will weave webs that are very distinctive. Sometimes, when you take a spider out of that, it'll start to weave differently. When you introduce a critical mass of its like species, suddenly the webs change back to their standard. The belief on the reason for that is something called a morphogenic field. In other words, kind of a collective unconsciousness of the individual species. It's said that when knowledge gets to a certain point, critical mass within the species, it suddenly spreads. Experiments were done on this. I can't remember if it was Reese monkeys specifically, but suffice it to say, Japanese scientists found an island that had absolutely, well, a very little connection to anything around it. They had 2 islands. They had 2 populations of these monkeys that they seeded. They then introduced, what they do is they would drop these bananas on the beach in the sand, and then they taught one colony of monkeys how to wash them. I know it seems kind of silly and something maybe self-explanatory, but monkeys on both islands were just eating the sand-covered bananas. When they taught, and it spread to a certain kind of critical mass in the one population of monkeys, the monkeys on the other island that had no contact started doing it. I've read articles both in support of morphogenic and against morphogenic fields. The ones that I have read thus far against morphogenic fields thus far haven't really been entirely convincing, because we always have to be careful in science that we're measuring what we're measuring. And it seemed more like they were creating strawmen of the idea of morphogenic fields and then attacking and toppling that. So, what's a good way to say it? I kind of straddle the fence. The morphogenic fields make a lot of sense, and I'm really interested to see what that's on about. Because then it would be essentially the idea of tapping into the collective unconsciousness of our species. But enough on that book. I'm going to take forever, and this will be forever, and you will all hate me, and you will throw things at my windows, and it'll make me sad. Here's another one by Christopher Penstock. Now, given how his books usually have quite a delightful feel to them, this one's a bit of a departure in book design. But it's relatively recent, if I recall. Yeah, published in 2002. It's called Spirit Allies, Meet Your Team from the Other Side. Now, when you see the cover, especially if you're familiar with Christopher Penstock's work, you're going to probably agree with me and go, wow, that's really, really simple for a cover for him. Let's move onward. Now, this one's definitely going into the healing section. This is the essential step-by-step guide to acupressure. What's acupressure? Well, there's acupuncture, which is all about being poked. Well, it's all about a lot more than that. Acupressure, though, is stimulating the same kind of areas, but utilizing touch and utilizing gentle pressure. It tends to segue very, very strongly with Chinese medicine and therapies. So for those of you who are watching earlier videos, the Volume 1 and Volume 2 of traditional Chinese medicine may be a good thing to go with this if you're making a gift of it. Oh. So this is one of my favorite books in my library, and it was the reason why I first fell in love with the Element Encyclopedia series. It's a sizable, beautiful, delightful book. And the title of it is certainly no joke. I'm not kidding here. The Element Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells. Holy smokes, that's a lot of spells. How do you remember them all? I don't! What I do, the book is designed and it's organized by kind of magical purpose, like banishings in one section, wealth, fertilities in another one. You essentially can go to that section and you get an enormous cross-section from hundreds of different cultures of spells and methodology used to achieve that result. And what I often will do, say if I'm doing a banishing spell myself, I will go through and I'll read through a bunch of them, and I find them inspiring. I may take the oil from this one, and oh, I like that chant from that one, and you know, utilizing this individual deity is a really good idea. I'll make sure that I work that deity into it. So I'll go through and I'll wind up with a spell that's essentially drawing from a whole bunch of different cultures and a whole bunch of different sources. It's a book that I adore, and it makes for one heck of a coffee table book too. You don't do it if your family members, if you're not out of the broom closet to your family members. I highly do not recommend that. But it is amazing. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but on just these 2 pages, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spells. They are phenomenal. If you're in a book for pictures, this isn't the book for you. It really isn't. This is all spells. Oh, but it's delightful. While we're on the topic of encyclopedias, for those of you who are familiar with John Michael Greer, he tends to write about high magic topics. He has put out the new Encyclopedia of the Occult. I'm sorry, I just caught a glance of the back. I usually hate it when books make ginormous claims. The last book you will ever need. Well, this one says, presenting the most complete occult reference work ever. From Arab Zarek to Zoskia Zolkus. This is the most up-to-date comprehensive guide to the history, philosophies, and personalities of Western occultism. Written by an occult scholar and practitioner with the assistance of hundreds of experts in the field, this encyclopedia presents the latest in scholarly research and points out errors in previous writing. Actually, that's really cool. I kind of want to read this now. I love errata. Revealing truths much more interesting and dramatic than the fictional histories that obscured them. Okay, yeah, no, somebody's racing me for this book. Run fast. The complete magic curriculum of the secret order, G therefore, B therefore, G therefore. For those of you who are unfamiliar, it's an organization called the Great Brotherhood of God, if I do recall. Yeah, no, that's definitely the Great Brotherhood of God. Let's see what it says on the... Yeah, it says on the back. Oh boy, who knew I could have made my life easier just by looking at the back. Suffice it to say, though, it's an attempt, if you're asking, why is this different? It's an attempt to distill high magic. High magical practice is very, very complicated, and that's one of the things I love about it, is the complexities. But it seeks to kind of distill it down to a kind of a few more powerful essential steps. I think a lot of the ways that they tend to describe themselves is they're going for more efficient magic. Now, whether or not that's successful, I don't know. However, they draw from a lot of different studies, including the Abbey of Thelema, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. Ooh, hooray! I had a lovely customer come in, and I showed her to the section on Druidry, and then I got a surprise when she scooped every single book off the shelf. So my Druidry section disappeared with one customer. I don't know if she's watching right now, or if others of you who came in and found nothing got very sad, but Druid Power! Hurrah! Finally another book on it. Now this is written by Amber Wolf. Amber Wolf is, I don't know if she's actually a big name in any of the Druidic orders out there. I don't think she's in the Ardre Fane. Let's see if she's... she wrote a book called In the Shadow of the Shaman. That's one I have in my personal library. If I recall, though, she's very Celtic in her styling, so I imagine the Druidry presented here is going to be very Celtic. Yeah, no, from some of the pictures inside, it's very Celtic. Which isn't... I lied to you. I own this book. Yep, no, I lied to you. I own this book. Okay. They have recovered it. Yay! It was pretty good. It was pretty darn good. I liked it. It did have a lot of kind of leanings, though, more toward modern occultism. Like, you can really see the coloring of it on it. So if you're looking for something that's a terribly hoary historical piece, this is not your book. If, however, you're looking to see Druidry as it's grown, definitely a read. Now some people are familiar with Reiki and familiar with the movement of energy, but some people are like, well, what the heck do I do for specific ailments? This book, I was hoping, would help those people out. Reiki for common ailments, a practical guide to healing more than 80 common health problems. Rather than just saying, put energy at it. This will be hopefully more of a guide, because I know sometimes people complain about just not having the exact, precise, what do I do when? So hopefully that'll help. Now, for you witches who are looking to incorporate kind of more high magical concepts like the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, it can be a little bit difficult. One of the biggest barriers that we encounter when we're doing that is that a lot of Kabbalism and a lot of high magic very much centers around the Abrahamic religions and the Abrahamic God and the concept thereof. And so sometimes people who want to study it get turned off by that and don't proceed any further. That's exactly why I got this. Now, Ellen Cannon Reed, if you haven't heard of her, she's also, she was the artist behind the Witch's Tarot. I love Ellen Cannon Reed, but you don't see a heck of a lot from her. She was kind of prolific when I was a young witch, and then just... Now, she may be very busy, and I may just be completely ignorant of what she's doing. But this is one of her books that I adore. It made the Kabbalah much more easy to digest for me. I mean, I had tried a bunch of different routes. I had tried Jan Fortune's Mystic Kabbalah, and still it was so monotheistic that I had such problems with it. But the Witch's Kabbalah looks at it through the lens of the craft and through the lens of a polytheist rather than a monotheist. It was just so much easier to read. I can't believe a lot of the concepts didn't click when I was researching them as part of my ceremonial magic studies. But for some reason, this book and her words, her teaching style maybe, it just made it click for me. So if you're having problems, if you want to use the Tree of Life in your magic and you are having such problems because, you know, Alta Malkuth, Vigabura, Vigadula, Lula, Malm is, thy kingdom forever and ever, and then that bothers you, she'll help you kind of make it your own. Find your own path on the Tree of Life. Bam! Now, some of our books range into the kind of parapsychological or the paranormal, and this is one of those. Is your house haunted? And it's not meant to be quite so boogity. Poltergeist, ghosts, and bad wiring. Pretty much, this is one of our ghost hunting books. Now, I'm not familiar with Debbie Chestnut, who is the author of it. I'm not terribly familiar with her, but I went on a few ghost hunting websites, and some people were swearing by this book. At the very least, it definitely caused controversy within the ghost hunting community. I don't know why, I haven't read it myself, but I thought, you know what, if it's going to cause a discussion like that, it's going to have either some really good information or some really poor information, and I'll let you figure that one out for yourself. Ecstatic Witchcraft is the name of this. Magic, Philosophy, and Trance in the Shamanic Craft. Shamanic Craft? Well, yeah. The same way that some witches take their craft into a very kind of high magic bent, some of them practice a much more shamanic kind of mode of witchcraft. This is to kind of help them deepen their journey into it. And for those who actually are more ceremonial and want to explore the shamanistic side, this is here to help as well. I don't want anybody ever to feel like they're stuck in just one viewpoint. Now, I think to remember about the shamanism represented in here is that it is going to be colored by where the author is from, more specifically Australia. So a lot of the subjects in here, or a lot of the methods, are not necessarily going to be Native American. They are going to quite likely be Aborigine. So this is going to be interesting. I want all of the books, and I'm sure some of you out there want all of the books too. We are totally together in one. Now, while we're kind of nearby the topic of parapsychology, here's the Element Encyclopedia of Ghosts and Hauntings. Now, I haven't owned this one myself, but the Element Encyclopedia is pretty renowned. Like, the whole series are pretty renowned for having a lot of information and doing a crap ton of research. Holy smokes. So I knew that this was going to be good off the get-go. It's the same size, it's a smaller size, the same size as our copy of Secret Societies, but still very, very dense. Very, very dense. This one will travel easy with you. Now, I do like Ted Andrews and his how-to series. For those of you who don't know Ted Andrews, he's kind of shamanic and bent, but he writes on topics ranging from spirits to animal spirits to astral companions. This one is all about a subject called psychometry. Psychometry? Is that where a crazy person measures something? No. Essentially, the idea, and most people have heard about it or seen it in movies or experienced it themselves, where they touch something and they get a very strong impression off of it. Psychometry is the ability to touch something and to gain a kenning, to gain a knowing of what's surrounding it, what its history was, what it was used for, stuff like that. So pretty much from car keys to teacups to murder knives. Murder weapons. I'm gonna get you with my murder knife. Anyway, interesting. It's very rare that you find something on psychometry, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to somebody who's been like, what? I can learn this? Yes, you can. Now, another one by Debbie Chestnut. You'll remember her as the lady who wrote Is Your House Haunted? How to Clear Your Home of Ghosts and Spirits. Methods on getting rid of the unwanted guest. Which one to go for next? Oh, this is oh no, this one. Ooh. Oh, I got a bunch of books I'm very happy to see. Now, Llewellyn has started putting up this series, and to me it feels recently, but I'm going to find out they were printed 25 years ago or something ludicrous like that. No! Ha! I'm right! They started being printed. Oh, that's the fourth printing. Oh, darn it. They started, the most recent printing was 2016. What was the first? Tell me. 2011. Okay. Not so bad. Then it is relatively recent, he says, of a book that's 6 years old. But Llewellyn started putting out these really excellent, dense, informational books on subjects. This one is the complete book of predictive astrology. Now, if you're watching one of the previous videos, you'll remember that I pointed out that predictive astrology is not something you usually find. Oh, you can find all sorts of books that'll tell you how to write up a natal chart. Absolutely. Or find out where planets are in this moment. Sure. But do you really want to do all that math for every single thing, every single day? Nightmare, right? I've always wanted to know more about predictive astrology. How do they come up with the horoscopes, things like that. If you've been curious too, hopefully this will answer both of our questions. Now, along that same line, and part of that same series, is Llewellyn's complete book of correspondences. I mean, a book of letters from people to people? No. Magical correspondences are things like fire is related to courage and passion and strength. Earth is related to dissolution, prosperity, stability. Water is related to emotion and subtlety and night. Air to inspiration. Now, those are just some very, very basic ones. High magic especially uses an awful lot of correspondences. This is to show magical correspondences of things, meanings, links, and similar energies. The correspondences of things are something that I adore. Now, it does mean that it's going to be an awful lot of charts, so if you're hoping for a bunch of pictures, it's not going to be quite so much. If you're looking for an enormous amount of information, this is going to help out. For example, if you want to know that Heather, Kaluna vulgaris, is Wow, it's related to Scorpio, Taurus, Litha, Soin. The element is water, the energy is yin. Then magically it's connected to fairies. In the solar system, it's related to Venus in the Ogum, or Om, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Whether pretty much it comes down to whether or not you speak Gaelic or not. It's related to her. And this is just going to be a bunch of confusing stuff for those of you who are unfamiliar. This is not a basic book, I might add. Not for the basics. But if you're looking to find energy sources from all over to add to your spellcraft, kind of like when you're cooking, if you like adding all those little tiny spices, check it out. Now, for those of you who always talk about high magic, maybe wondering, okay, well, they assembled in these lodges. I know what life in a coven may be like, or I may have an idea of what things are like, but what is life like inside of a magical lodge? Now, John Michael Greer, again, somebody who writes quite a bit about ceremonial magic, wrote this book, Inside a Magical Lodge, Group Ritual in the Western Tradition. The idea behind this is to make the idea of magical brotherhoods and lodges a lot less frightening. Let's see what they say on the back of here. Nothing really, really exciting. However, one of the endorsements on the back is one that stands out to me. Huge names. For those of you who know Israel Regarde, he became an enormous name in the Golden Dawn. He's kind of passed his torch on to the Cicero couple, being Chick and Sandra. Cicero, of course. They write an awful lot of books and have edited and kind of re-released a lot of Israel Regarde's original writings. The largest, very positive review from them, well, comes from them. Being that they are pretty good authorities in the subject and very big names in the subject, I'm going to take that endorsement well. I've had a few people ask me about more stuff from Aleister Crowley, and I have had some stuff. We will eventually be getting in again. His Book of the Law, written in his own original handwriting. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's so cool. Have you ever tried reading Aleister Crowley's handwriting? Try it sometime. Anyway, not in his handwriting, in perfectly understandable English. We have The Magic of Aleister Crowley. Now this one deals specifically with kind of his work around the time of the Abbey of Thelema. That was one of his most progressive magical times, but it was also one of his most controversial. For those of you who wonder, what the heck? Look up Abbey of Thelema and maybe add the word murder or bisexual, and watch what happened with the media back then. Wow, things went crazy. But this is during one of his most productive and most kind of free magical experimentation, or times of magical experimentation. So many other times he existed within other lodges and other traditions, and he constantly butted head, eventually, with the leadership of each of them. This was when, you know, he was really in a position of power, and so he was able to explore very freely. And it was quite revolutionary. I may not have really liked the man all that much. However, I respect him deeply because of his additions to the literature and to magical experimentation. The guy, he had a knack. He was good. Although, going back to going back to the very controversial conversation between him and Samuel Little Mathers, where Samuel Little Mathers said, "Have you been playing with the Goetia, or has the Goetia been playing with you?" I have an answer. The Goetia was playing with him. Anyway. Here we have The Magical Power of the Saints, Evocation and Candle Rituals. Now, this is going to be of interest actually to a few different people. Christo-pagans, people who practice Santeria, Voodoo. There's quite a few, actually, hope you'll probably be interested in this. And I'm sorry I only got one in. But, I mean, there's a lot of books. If I had to start choosing multiples, I would choose multiples of everything, and very quickly my book order would be, well, I'd be selling my kidneys to afford it. We'll just put it that way. Speaking of Christo-pagans and people who are meshing kind of the two different sides, I know, I feel sorry for them, because in a way they're kind of like the magical bisexuals. And what I mean by that is quite commonly a bisexual will get kind of pooped on by straight people and get pooped on by gay people. No, Jews aside. Well, the same thing happens to Christo-pagans. Some pagans will be like, enough with the Mary and the Jesus. And then some Christians are like, how dare you do the evil? Well, he sticks them in a no man's land. Thoroughly unfair. So, kaboom. So if you call yourself a Christian witch, or if you have a love for elements of both and are trying to combine them, you've got support. You're not alone. And there are people who write books about it. That way you can see somebody else's experience, see what's worked for them. Will it work for you? It may not, but it may. Or it may inspire you to create whole new paths all of your own. Never be afraid to forge your own path spiritually. Now, completely jumping on to different topics. Who here knows who Alpheus Levi was? Anyway, put very, very shortly, old-timey author, suffice it to say. His book is The History of Magic. Now, this is not something recently written. This was eventually translated by A.E. White, Arthur Edward White. It's one of those old books which have been reprinted. If I recall, maybe they have Alpheus Levi, born in France, 1810. When did he die? 1875. So it's not thoroughly ancient, but he was looking at putting together a history of magic, especially the high magic, and although there had been some attempts made much earlier, if I recall, at the time his was considered to be the most extensive and the most in-depth piece of occult history right here. Lovely. And they did a really good job of capturing kind of the imagery. Oh, it's really a pretty book. Now, for those of you who have taken my Wicca 101 course, which is going to be people actually in a few different cities in the province, and coming up very soon I'm going to be running another Wicca 101 course, but some of you will recognize the name Myconidia. The long and the short of it is that there are some traditions around the world, spiritual, shamanic, and otherwise, who have deities not only of plant and animal, but also fungus, mushrooms. This book is something which will likely interest them. Now, the author of it is actually somebody who I disagree with on many topics. Luckily, one of them is not spirits or totems. Her name is Lupa, and her and I do not always agree on things, and that's okay because we don't need to. However, she is a good author, and she does good research, and she loves to find the obscure and the occult and bring it out into the light and share it with others. And in this case, we have plant and fungus totems. Connect with spirits of field, forest, and garden. So those of you who are looking into the mushrooming, but for more of a spiritual bent, you may find that what's drawing you may be more than just a curiosity. You may be meeting up with the spirit or essence of Myconidia. Now, some of you will be like, oh, mushrooms, really? How could they possibly? There are mushroom clusters that are larger than states, and they tend to organize themselves very much like neural fibers or neural tissues. We've also discovered that apparently they can carry impulses from tree to tree, like neurons. So a lot of mystery, a lot of fascination there. I'm curious to see what science finds out as time goes on. Very excited. Don't you love it when science starts to reveal things that were old truths, but then we start to go, okay, well, that's why we noticed it. And of course, sadly, just like a game of telephone, a lot of the old truths get a lot of additions from people on the way. That's why a lot of the old truths will be half-truths, partial truths, or truths with a whole bunch of weird stuff added on. Like, you must wear pink and wiggle your bum to the right only while you're picking this mushroom. Anyway, now going into our Defense Against the Dark Arts section is this one. I enjoyed the name of it because it calls itself a survival guide. I'm not saying that rudely or anything. It's the Practical Psychic Self-Defense Handbook and Survival Guide, Combat Psychic Attacks, Evil Spirits, and Possession. Despite the fact that it sounds kind of like a book on scouting, how to camp without dying by bears. This one, I've heard very good things about the author Robert Bruce. Not Robert the Bruce, but Robert Bruce. Actually, just by peeking through, right in this little tiny section, he deals with a lot of stuff I already know and a bunch of stuff I don't know. Okay, I know I've said other people are going to have to race me for books. Start running. Now, going to the same section but along a different kind of bent is the Gothic Grimoire by Constantinos. Constantinos writes a lot of kind of, some people get upset because he starts to veer towards the left hand. Bum bum bum, oh no, left-handed path. What he's trying to do quite often though is just encourage people to find wholeness by connecting with shadow as well as light. He deals in this book about dealing with simple exorcisms. It's kind of an expansion from what I understand of his Nocturnal Witchcraft book. It also deals with doing astral travel, but not astral travel around here, descending into the underworld, dealing with the dead, stuff like that. So I guess really whether you're new to things, are curious about the dark side, or whether you're a seasoned dog mystic, this companion to Nocturnal Witchcraft is likely to help hone your craft, or at the very least introduce you to some new concepts. Now, I never got introduced to a book when I learned this, and I'm kind of excited to see this book. When I was young, I had the most horrific night terrors. My mother, amazing woman that she was, taught me how to lucid dream. And that has set me up for a lifetime of absolutely loving my dream life, because very, very rarely, usually once in a decade, do I have a nightmare that I don't wind up taking control of and just enjoying like some kind of fantastic horror movie. But this is Llewellyn's complete book of lucid dreaming. For those of you who don't lucid dream, I cannot speak highly enough of it. When things are getting out of control, you learn very quickly how to visualize, how to create, and then it becomes a magical adventure. Like, it's just a fantastic adventure, and it does not matter what the subject of the dream is, whether it be horror or comedy or romance or whatever. It bends to your will. It becomes a lot of fun. Because of lucid dreaming, I adore dream. I adore it. So, I urge everybody who does not lucid dream, look into it. It is so worth your time. You will have such a fantastic, vivid dream life. I also really love, in horror dreams, playing the scared little, oh no, no, no. And I lead the monster to where I want it. And then, of course, I come around the corner and there's the power suit that I was imagining. And I put on my power suit and it comes around the corner and I go, blah, and it starts running for me. It's kind of like when you watch dogs and they're like, chase me, chase me, chase me, chase me. It's kind of like that. I spent the whole night chasing monsters around and being chased in return. It's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it. It might not be your cup of tea, and that's okay, but if it kind of sparked a curiosity in you, definitely check it out. So much fun. Essential Sufism. I wanted to help promote a lot of religious understanding and to have stuff for a lot of different faiths. Actually, I apologize to everybody. The books on Buddhism that I unboxed earlier are gone. In the day between, I had a Buddhist monk come in, and he was very, very, very excited at the books we had. He bought every single Buddha in the store, and he bought all of my books on Buddhism. He was just thrilled. So I'll be getting more of those in. If any of you are Sufi or are looking for more information on Sufism, check this out. I love bringing people their spirit goods, and this is just another path to spirit. Ooh, just 2 more left in here. Let's do this one. Now, Carl F. Neal, I have heard much about. I don't own this book myself. It's Incense Magic, creating inspiring aromatic experiences for your craft. I look forward to different authors. They bring different things. I like Cunningham's Incense Oils and Brews. He brings a bunch of recipes, but he also has this wonderful section on magical substitution, which is so helpful. This one is looking at